Well, I've pretty much got it stripped down. Matter of fact, it's completely stripped down. And went over it with a wire brush in preparation to begin the painting process. And I'm actually having second thoughts on painting it. Let me walk around here a little bit. Right in here, I've just more or less just knocked off the loose stuff, knocked down the bare metal. Some places bare metal came through, but I'm almost thinking about leaving it and just oiling it with either linseed oil or just WD-40. I sprayed some WD-40 on it here and over here on the wheels. You can tell where it starts and stops there, and on the spoke. I don't know. I'm just on the fence whether or not to paint this engine or not. I am going to polish the rims of the flywheels though. Probably do that after I get it running. In the process of getting the pulley off, had to stop and rest for a little bit. Got a setup on it. It's been pretty tough. It did not want to break loose, and I finally got it to where it is beginning to move, just beginning to move now. So I had to put a little heat on the hub, and I've had to run these nuts in as far as I could, and then take an air hammer and jolt it here on the end. Tapping it with a hammer wasn't doing it, but the air hammer seems to have gotten it started moving. So yeah, we're gonna keep going here. Just got the wheels out and cleaned them up yesterday outside, and they cleaned up pretty good. It's just the only spot of paint I found on it was underneath the bracket. I'll show you here. This may be a little hard to see, but there's a little bit of red paint right there that was underneath the bracket that holds the side arm on it there that actuates the valve. And then I had some dark red paint. Ox blood red was the color, and that is the only little spot of paint I found on the whole engine. I just took a little bit of the paint I had around here, I forget what it's called, dark red Rust-Oleum, just give it a spot there just to see how close it is. And it's a little too bright, and it's going to be tough to actually match the color. Oxblood red, in my opinion, is not much different than primer red, and I don't want it to look like it's just been primered and left alone. I'm pretty much convincing myself just to leave it alone. I'm going to clean this cart up. The cart's got some loose bolts, on it and stuff. These nuts are upside down. I'm going to switch those around, straighten everything up. This nut bolt down through here isn't quite right. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to make a new handle for it, I think, and just kind of fix the cart up a little bit. Clean the wheels and wire brush it just like I did the engine. And I think I'm just going to go back together with it and let it go. That's what I'm thinking at this point. My mind is subject to change without notice, and I'm just gonna keep working on it here, and got some parts over here on the bench, and go from there. I'm gonna measure the cylinder and check the ring gap. If the ring gap's not too bad, I'm going to put those back in. I'm also going to check the ring clearance in the grooves. That's very important, so I'm going to check that. But I'm just trying to get everything apart and cleaned up right now. And once I get that pulley off of there, which it's coming, it's going to make it, I think, and get it off there, I can clean up the shaft. I just want to have everything. I just want to have it completely disassembled except for the flywheels off of the crankshaft, and there's no use to begin that battle. There's no use to even think about that. So here we go. Back to it here. I just wanted to update you on what's going on, and we'll be back. Well, after much work, it's off of there, and guess what I found in it? A mud dauber's nest. Think of that. Huge one. It's amazing. Oh well. Well, now I'm over here working on the cart. This is what bothers me about this. These nuts are all on upside down. Every dang nut on here was on upside down with the exception of these lock nuts here. And so I'm taking the cart all apart. And it needs a good cleaning up anyway. All the bolts are bent because of the angle of the channel here. The angle of the channels, it's thinner here than it is up here, and that creates a problem for the bolts, but I'm going to leave them bent like that. They were holding very well. I'm just going to clean them up and put them back in the same position I took them out of. Here's one of the wheels. I think you can see in there, this where the axle or the spokes come down are fastened in there. And I think I mentioned one time that this is an electric wheel company cart, and they got their name because they perfected a method of electrically heating these spokes and banking the wheels. So they made a lot of carts for a lot of different engines and other implements, and there's a lot of those carts around now. Chances are this cart didn't come with this engine. Waterloo had their own carts, but who knows? This is about the same era, about the same age cart as far as I can tell. And so it's coming apart. I'm just getting all the pieces off of it. The pieces I can get in my blast cabinet, I'm going to sandblast, and longer pieces here, I'll probably just use a wire brush on them and get it all cleaned up and reassembled correctly. Let's see, what was I going to show you? Oh, here we go. Here's the center pivot. This is where the axle, this is the front axle here. I've got the front wheels off of it. It pivots here to let the one wheel, if one wheel falls in a hole or something like that, it gives you some suspension. And what I'm seeing here is, if you look down in here, this is actually a bolt that is threaded up into this cast iron piece. And on the bottom here, this brace that braces the front axle comes back and bolts in. Let's see, bolts in right here. This piece here goes across the frame here and helps support the front axle. Anyway, these bolts here, instead of going clear through like a lot of people do, a lot of manufacturers did, these bolts thread into this casting. This one threads into a part here and this one here. And there's a myriad of all kinds of things. Here's a spacer that's made from a ball bearing race. And here's a small, real thin nut. There's a washer, another washer. There's a lock washer. Just a conglomeration of various hardware in here. I'm going to take this all apart, reassemble it correctly, and I'm going to have to heat this casting in order to get these bolts out. I'm not going to try to twist them out of there like they are. So we're going to get on with that here in a bit, but yeah, just going farther than I thought I was going to go with this thing. I'm just going to completely disassemble it, clean each piece, put it back together, and it'll be a super nice cart. So we'll keep going here. Well, I've got the front end apart here. This pivot we were talking about. Everything came loose on the other side, but this side, the bolt broke off. And, well, I'll tell you, that bolt, it's been a tough one. The grain structure of it is something else. You know, it's what you do is the easiest way is to weld a nut on and pull it out of there. Well, I've tried that 3 times. And let's see, what was the last time? here, if you can see that, I don't know if you can see that grain structure or not in that bolt, but the grain structure of that metal in the bolt is just not conducive to this type of a repair. So I'm going to have to put this in the mill and center it up and drill that bolt out and replace it. Just, well, I've had this all cherry bright orange red, actually, trying to get that bolt to come out. But that's the last thing. Everything else is pretty much apart and getting ready to clean up stuff. So we'll get that piece in the mill and see if I can get that bolt out of there. Well, while you weren't looking, I went ahead and assembled the cart, and pretty boring as far as that goes, so I didn't bore you with that. But what I've done so far, I've got the engine block mounted on the cart so I can start reassembling the engine. What I've done on the cart, as you can see, is put some boiled linseed oil on it. I just coated everything, spokes, rims, and all that. And here's some old boiled linseed oil that I've been using here. So that's what I'm going to do. I've gone over and over the paint on this thing, and as I've mentioned before, won't bore you anymore with that. So what I'm going to go with is boiled linseed oil, clear finish, natural patina. There's nothing to hide on this engine. No cracks on the block anywhere. There's one repair, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But anyway, got her setting on there, and I have cleaned this hole out for our pin that holds the cam gear on. Got that clean. Over here behind me on the bench, I've got some parts laid out here. Oh, here's the repair I was going to show you. Right here, it looks like this is a weld here. I'll know when I get it cleaned up better. I believe this has been welded. Here, this is the little arm that actuates the igniter. And I think that's been, pretty sure that's been broken off of there and welded back on. And that's fine. Hey, it's working. It's not super critical. I mean, if it breaks off again, those parts can be made pretty easy, so I'm not too worried about it. Got this apart here as well. This is the governor assembly, and I think this gear unscrews off of here. I'll get this apart further and we'll investigate that. Let me get some of these tools out of the way here. Then here is this cam follower roller. Let me put you on a stand and we'll get a look at that. I took this apart, loosened it up and everything off camera so I could show you here easily. This nut comes off, this pops out, and you can see the amount of wear on here. That thing's just completely, totally wore out. Now, I thought about using a ball bearing on here. I've seen guys do that. I'm just going to remake this part. It's not a huge deal. This is recessed. This bolt here has a head on it that's recessed in here because it has to have a flat surface. It has to go up against the casting of the engine, so it has to have plenty of room to move without any interfering bolt head or anything like that. So we'll reproduce this piece too. But I wanted to show you that. We'll be getting into that here soon. And let's go over to the other bench and let's have a look at this cam gear. All right, we're over here at in the area of the shop where I do some machining and stuff. I've got, get you set up over here just a little farther. Got some plug gauges here, or what I use for plug gauges. They're not perfect. Here's the gear. Got it sandblasted. I want to make sure and clean it up. Make sure that it didn't have any cracks and I could really assess the wear on it, and it really looks pretty good. There are some teeth on it that are worn more than others where it ramps up the cam here. Of course, these teeth at that point they show a little bit of wear, but nothing critical at all. So anyway, I cleaned up the axle. I'm going to call this an axle. It goes in the engine block. This goes through here and like that. And this is where we had the excessive wear to the point that it was actually rubbing. Now that I sandblasted it, you can't see it, but it was actually rubbing a little bit here on the gear, and we can't have that. So we got to get this tightened back up. So I have decided, after looking at this, to go ahead and just remake this part. As you can see, that's on an eccentric, and that sets the lash of the gear. So what we're going to do here is we are going to eliminate this. This is a 5/8 plug gauge, and I've checked that, and it's perfectly 5/8, 625 on the money. And if I stick that in here, that's a lot less wear, a lot better fit than this one, which is just sloppy as can be. The back up to 5/8 is got a little bit, but not bad. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this. This is actually, this diameter here is 1 inch. This is 5/8, and I'm going to go 630. I'm going to go about 5 over on this, and that will make it even tighter. And I don't want to bore this and sleeve it because we're getting awful thin right here at this point. I don't think that would hurt anything. There's no pressure back here. All the pressure is up here where it ramps up the cam. No pressure here, but I'm not going to go any thinner. I don't want to take a chance on cracking that. If I would push a sleeve in there, a bushing, and bore that, let's say we bored it 20 thousandths, 10 thousandths on each wall, it's not going to hurt anything, but I just don't think it's necessary. I think it's easier to remake this eccentric pin than it is to bush this. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've cleaned this up. You can see where the set screws have bit into it here, and that was what was keeping it from pulling out, keeping it from, it was pulling out hard. And also I'm gonna on the new piece, I'm gonna thread this. I'm gonna drill this in about 3/8 or so, thread it in here quite a little bit, put a bolt in there. That way I can put a wrench on the head of that bolt and actually turn this and make an adjustment, and also pull that bolt out and put a puller in there if I ever have trouble pulling this thing apart or getting it out of there again. So that'll aid in getting it pulled out next time. Probably won't be me that does it, but somebody down the road, hopefully, if they continue to enjoy these engines, they may have to do this again sometime. So we'll try to make it easier for them. Also, there's a ridge worn in here. I'm going to take a file and try to get rid of it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's got about, looks like maybe 25-30 thousandths worn down where that roller runs. So I'm going to try to dress that down as well, and we'll get her back bumping again, and that should straighten this up and get us back within tolerance here. I just want to take a second. Appreciate you guys watching. Leave comment, subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. I get some feedback, and it just keeps me going. What little feedback I have gotten so far has been positive. So I know when I'm working on a project, I like to go out on YouTube and watch the other guys and get ideas from them, and I'm just trying to help other people as well that maybe haven't been here before. If you've got one of these old engines and want to try to do this, you know, it's encouraging. It's just encouraging for us to help each other like this. And that clock, I got to do something with that clock. So anyway, catch you guys later, and we'll keep going here. Well, just getting finished up here with this pin here that holds the cam. Let's see if it's going to fit here in a minute. You can see how I set the 4-jaw offset there, and that gives me the same offset as the original pin. So we will see if that's going to work here. I'm going to pop it out of the chuck here, and I've got to drill this side now for a 3/8 16, and that should work. I've got a pretty good fit on the gear, so let's get this drilled out here. All right, I want to put a 3/8. What is it here? Let me look. 3/8 16. So to do that, I need to drill a 5/16 hole. So let's do that. And I'm going to plunge in about an inch. The old pen didn't have this, and it made it difficult. I had to actually take the flywheels off, as you saw, to gain access where I could get a puller on there. So hopefully this will help the next guy out and allow him to more easily pull this pin out. If it gets stuck, it may not. We may be all right. I left a little more clearance on the pin, maybe a 1,000th or so, from the pin to the engine fit. So coming up on an inch here. Watching my scale here. There we go. Okay, I got room there. Get my carriage out of the way here. And you lock this. There we go. That tap is running a little hard. I'm going to pull it out and change taps here. I chose a couple different ones. Let me get another different style here. We'll run him in there and see if it fits any different. it's not. I think I'm at the end anyway. Let me look here. No, I don't believe I am. Alright, let me go back to the other one. It was cutting anyway. I like the way this particular spiral tap brings out the chips out this way. Since we're cutting into a blind hole, it's doing a little better. It's rolling the chips out toward me here. We are just about there. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Hold your ears. Okay. Run that in there one more time just to clear everything. I like it. Now, I didn't get a chance, I forgot to face this off, so I'm going to face it off while I got it chucked up here, just because it looks a little better, and we'll be done. Don't think we made it. Not quite. There we are. We chamfer it. All right. Okay, I've got a bolt here. Let's see if it'll work. There it is. Good deal. Snug that up. I chose an old bolt here, and just so it would look right. So we'll go over and put it on the engine. Well, I got you set up back over here on the engine. This did come out to 640 or 630, excuse me. 5/8 is 625. 5 over made it fit just fine. So, this goes in here like so. Like this. Let me grab a wrench here. I can use this bolt to set the lash. And that is going to work fantastic.